Yes, see, people don't understand.
I would have had my hat on that.
That's
I ended up one section of it, pushing the sheetrock down, shivering it.
always
Oh,
that. This is what
That's the one section, couldn't do the other one. Yeah, I'm gonna figure out what's content.
it doesn't matter, you increasing this.
It's something that,
You'll have to check their.
maybe the
I don't think it's a big thing. I don't have, I'll figure out what, whether they,
I'll bring it up. Okay, that's good.
being massaged or what.
Because there's a sort of a cohesiveness to
They
it.
had to do it
Stop
before, so
doing whatever.
they had to do that. I think you're right. And people didn't do it. Now, and now.
All right, it's 5 o'clock, everyone. Welcome to the Peterborough Select Board meeting for June 6th, 2023. I'm Tyler Ward. We have Bill Kennedy and Bill Taylor, fellow Select Board members. Also, Town Administrator Nicole McStay and Assistant to the Town Administrator Allie Kreutz here. Seth MacLean's in the audience to answer any questions anybody has. Tonight's agenda, it seems like we have quite a bit here, but I think we can roll through a bunch of it. We'll start off with a public hearing pursuant to RSA 647, the acceptance of a town road. And then we'll vote possibly to authorize Seth to apply for recreational trails program grants regarding the common pathway, and then appointment of the Stone Cold Springs Advisory Committee delegate. Interesting to see who that may be.
Not to be confused with the wrestler, Stone Cold.
That's Cold Stone. Vote on $79,000 expenditure for fire department apparatus and equipment. And vote on the revolving fund budgets, that's the PEG station, ambulance, and recreation. We also have to vote on encumbrances for town paving in the West Peterborough TIF district.
And a late add-on for the tree service downtown as well.
Okay, thank you for adding that. And then social services funding requests, we go through those every year. Some great organizations that request funds, obviously. And then we're gonna vote to approve a resolution honoring the late Bob McQuillen. And then we'll vote to appoint Kristen, Ramey, and Erin McCall as library trustee board alternates. And then we might even vote to approve some select board minutes. And then when all that's through, we'll have a non-public session, RSA 91A 3(2)(c). With that, I make a motion to open the public hearing pursuant to RSA 647:40-A, Roman numeral 3, and that is for the acceptance of a town road.
Second.
All those in favor? We're open. Who shall be presented?
well, I did the last time. so
Let's do it again.
Welcome, David.
The as-built on Church Street. That's what you guys want.
I have a copy.
Huh?
Same.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all on us and to be a town road. They're all individual house lots, 50 feet of frontage. It was put in the TIF district for,
South Peterborough.
yeah, South Peterborough. All the compaction for the gravel and the inspections for the water and the sewer and the water, tests and the compaction for the asphalt, all that. Seth can corroborate that. So, that's kind of in a nutshell.
And this was part of the original plan and approval for the subdivision, was that this be accepted as a town road
Correct.
upon completion.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the planning board there, when you guys went for this approval, and yeah, they checked every box.
Yeah.
Really work with the town nicely. So, yeah.
Came out nicely. It's a nice little
Yeah,
development.
really nice. I noticed there are a couple, maybe one or two don't have names attached to them. Are they still unsold?
Nope.
No, everything's
Oh, they're also, okay. Or maybe I missed it on one. Or not.
There's some great views from there too.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience have any questions regarding Church Street?
I have a question.
Sure.
So it isn't just the road coming up to the church, it's also the road with all the houses on it, correct? I
Correct.
just wanted to be
Yep.
clear that it was that.
To the right, and it goes around, and there's a hammerhead turnaround down the.
Yeah, it does have a hammerhead turnaround. I don't know when it's open to the public for anything else.
Is it open? Yeah, I think it is now.
Is it? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I'm Sharon Monahan, Central Street. I was curious about this, and so I looked into it, and I couldn't find the minutes. The minutes in 2018 are not available on the website for me to find that out. So, but I did look up researching the deeds, and my understanding is, this is a public hearing, and, the RSA, it does say that RSA 67440A, 3, the local governing body shall hold a public hearing on the proposed acceptance prior to taking action. And what bothers me is that in May of 2020, there's a recorded amendment deleting the previous maintenance and driveway agreement, and it deletes it. It deletes the one that was made in 2014, which said that Church Street, it was in 2014, and there was Article 2.5, it was called the Common Driveway Easement and Maintenance Agreement for the church and the parcel to be developed, which is, Wilson Village. And it expressly, this is recorded, with the Registry of Deeds, and Article 2.5 says that your signatures are on it, both of you. It is further acknowledged that there is no obligation on the part of the town of Peterborough to maintain the easement area, and declarant, their grantees and/or assigned do agree not to convey the easement area to the town of Peterborough, and that said easement area shall never become a town road. Okay, so that was the purpose in 2020. They came to the select board and to change those agreements, okay?
We never came to the select board in 2020.
Well, it was on the select board agenda. Rodney Bartlett spoke to it. It was on May 19th, 2020, okay? And the select board did give them their approval. I'm just saying, it's on the video, I can look that up. And they did give their approval, authorizing him on behalf of us, the citizens. You authorized him to enter into an agreement, and the agreement on behalf of, us, and the agreement deleted that section of the ordinance so that it says specifically, so it's recorded. The amendment to the recorded agreement was to delete that section 2.5 so that you could become a town road. And what bothers me the most is just coming back to the initial thing is that was 3 years ago, over 3 years ago. And it's sort of a done deal, it's like it was a done deal then. So why are we having a public hearing now?
I believe the town has to do the final acceptance.
Yeah, but why 3 years later?
Because it just got finished.
It just got finished
Last
now.
year. Last,
The final plans?
fall's when we paid, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were just getting the final
Yeah.
as-bilt's done and everything's squared away. It takes a long time to get everything squared away. You know, we met with Seth and go through all the processes that we need to do to get it done.
Okay,
If
but
I
if the
can-
intention was to become a town road, why wasn't there a public hearing about that?
Can I
That
add
just
some
wasn't
clarity?
Yeah, I'd appreciate,
Can I
yeah,
add some
thank you,
clarity? So I'm going to read
clarification.
directly from the minutes.
Okay,
Mr. Burley explained that there are road and sewer easements that are in the process of finalization so that they can then apply to the board for acceptance of Church Street as a town road. Town Attorney John Radigan is working with the attorney representing the Church Street group. Chair Ward asked if the easements are just for the completed houses or if it applies to houses which will be built as well. Mr. Bartlett said it is for all the houses that will be built, including the church, which is already on town sewer. Chair Ward asked for confirmation that the density would cover the cost of putting in the infrastructure, and Mr. Bartlett confirmed.
yep.
Motion. Mr. Taylor made a motion to authorize so the motion is actually for an authorization to apply for the Gopher grant. That
Well,
was
that was-
discussed
That's a
prior.
misprint, though,
That
yeah.
was
I thought-
after.
I know, that's an error in the minutes. In the video, it says what they, they
That
voted.
it was to, okay. So, I mean, it sounds like there was work on the easements, but the construction work was still underway for the houses at that time. So until all that work was completed, the road could not be presented to the select board for their consideration. So nothing's gone awry. Water and sewer, we still, because it's a public utility, the town still has to have access to it, has to have access to those easements in order to maintain that infrastructure, which we have done all along.
Okay. No, I was trying to understand. So, and was it in May, since I couldn't look up, in 2018, did the planning board? See, I wasn't able to look up those minutes.
I don't have planning, I don't.
No, but
planning board
did they,
minutes.
I don't know if it came up, obviously you guys were working with them then, right? Yeah. Was it understood by the planning board that it was going to be a town road?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, that's why I'm asking.
How long?
yeah.
So the whole idea was that people would not have to have an association to deal with.
Yeah.
As far as, homeowners association.
Right,
So that was the whole idea, that it was a private town road and you each owned your own lot and you could do what you want on your lot.
Danica's reviewed the planning board file, she's reviewed, the minutes, she reviewed everything in the as-built to agree that it conforms to what the planning board had voted for. And so she has said, yes, it is compliant with the planning board's approval.
thank you.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie Hurley, Hunt Road. But it seems like there was something recorded in deeds that said that that the road would never become a town road, that Sharon found.
Yeah.
That was
And-
deleted from the deed, right?
Well,
And then it was deleted, what was the date at which it was deleted from the deed?
it was May 27th,
It could be.
2020. Yeah, that's what I was
2020.
talking about. Yeah, she read the
So
select board.
it was in 2020, and was there a planning board, was there an open hearing, a public hearing for the planning board?
There was when this was originally presented, yes.
When it was originally presented, it was not supposed to be a public road.
It was not originally a public road until after the construction was complete. You have to remember that it was built in stages and there were people living there at the time.
Originally, we were going to do condominiums there, and it was not going to be a town road. We were going to put a couple boxes in.
Right.
We would've got more
Okay,
units.
I understand, but it seems like the agreement that deleted the one that was on record there was not a public hearing. So procedure, again, it's procedural, that the public was never able to weigh in on whether or not it would be a public road.
But that's what tonight's hearing is about.
Okay, well, I will stand up and say I am against the town taking on any more public roads. I really feel like, that's one of the infrastructure costs that Ivy always says, it's $4.65 a running foot for maintenance of roads. And it is, I don't know how long the road is it 400,
The
800?
houses all have 50 feet of frontage, plus or minus. Very small
700
frontage.
feet.
It's about 700 feet, which is about $3,000 a year. So, and what Ivy says, I quoted it from one of our planning board meetings, I don't think the tax revenue from those houses is going to pay for the maintenance of the roads as well as all the other things. And I'm wondering, so I'm kind of against us taking on new roads. So that's just where I'm at. And the second thing is the cost. So it's in a TIF district now, right? That development. Is the TIF district going to take over some of the maintenance costs,
No,
plowing, any of that?
no.
So,
That goes into infrastructure for that whole area.
Well, it could, that's,
Right, correct. I'm on that board, so.
Yeah.
I believe the TIF plan would allow for maintenance if the TIF advisory committee, the EDA, and the select board all voted for it to allow for the maintenance. But it's not currently. Currently, all the money in the TIF district is being held for infrastructure improvements.
and so what would be the procedure to get it changed so that it could help with infrastructure? And, I mean, I'm thinking of this not just in terms of this development, because I want to have us have some developments with affordable housing. So I want to know how we're going to prevent the town from taking on a huge amount of additional cost for roads in the future. If TIF district money, if things are in the TIF district, can the TIF district take that over? And what would be my procedure to work with the town to try to put that into play?
You'd have to start with the TIF district advisory committee and present the proposal there.
Well, I'm just registering my, I understand this was a prior agreement, but I think we all need to be thinking in the town. We've all signed the affordable housing agreement, and we all need to be thinking that, you know, it increases the cost of everything for the town to have roads and to have us take on roads. And I really think that we should be cautious about it in the future.
We brought up Ivy's name. Ivy was also a proponent of this.
Absolutely.
Oh, I realize that.
Yeah,
I
she
realize
said-
that.
I think that-
She said that this would more than pay for itself in the future, and that's why going for the town road proposal was a given from the get-go. And so if we're going to quote Ivy, we also need to bring in what she actually said about this particular project.
Okay, I didn't
And
see
it
that
certainly
one.
would-
So thank you for
would,
bringing
pay
it up.
itself in perpetuity. And the assessed value of that development is
Very high.
outstanding.
Yeah.
And the money captured in the TIF district are gonna pay for a lot of infrastructure in town that, you know, that is not gonna be on the backs of the taxpayers. So I think, and it was my understanding that that was the trade-off for this, it's a rather small town road to maintain. So it's maybe 2 pushes with a plow.
Most.
At most. So, yeah, you bring up great points though. And, but, yeah, that's where I stand on this. I think this was.
Yeah, well, thank you for telling me that, because I didn't see that in the notes. But
Can I ask a question about the TIF? You know, because I am curious, and
Sure, but
I think I,
Before you do, Jack, did you want to add something?
Yeah.
No, the only thing I wanted to add was, basically, when we went to the planning board, got the approval, this was in the 2014, I'm not sure when we went for this final approval for these 19 houses. But the idea was kind of a work with the planning board that we would build this with only 700 feet of road for 19 houses, which provides very small infrastructure cost because of the length of the road is, you know, if it was in the rural districts, it would be 2,100 feet or 3,000 feet. So for the same number of homes. So the idea, and Ivy was a proponent of that, and the whole board was a proponent of that. We were building homes, and not big houses, they're only 1,500 to 1,900 square feet. And so then they don't meet the current affordable, because nothing basically does. But they are more inexpensive homes than some of the homes that are out here in Peterborough. So that was the idea, and it was, from the get-go, was that it was gonna be a town road. I don't know whether, it was always been that way.
This is, I mean, more or less a formality at this point, because the planning board accepted this as a town road as part of the development when you decided to go to single-family homes there. And as far as the infrastructure costs, you guys already paid to build the road to our town spec, so that staff
And the
of the
pump
department
station.
would accept it. Yeah, so,
And the pump station's big enough to do Bugatti Drive and more,
Yeah.
so it can be headed on to.
right.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I had a question. So now there's a lot of land, back there, So can this now be continued for future development back there? I'm not familiar. It can't, no?
I don't
I mean,
know.
I
it's
don't
a
think so.
little-
I don't think the road's big enough to handle that kind of traffic.
Okay, yeah,
I
well,
guess
that's what I.
50, it is a 50-foot right-of-way.
I think that also that the property behind there, if I recall, is in some kind of a conservancy, isn't
I
it?
believe so.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, because there is a large, and I was.
It's a big piece of land.
I know. I'm sorry, I was hoping that would, it might open that up. And so a TIF district, the TIF district cannot pay for maintenance, road maintenance costs like plowing and da-da-da, is that?
It can. TIF
It
district
can.
can, if the TIF district advisory committee chooses to fund it.
Okay,
It is such a short stretch of road, though, it seems unnecessary.
okay.
And how long does the TIF district last, too? It's not
This
forever.
one is in place until 2030,
2038, it's a long time,
38.
that's why, yeah.
quite a while, 38, yeah. Unless it gets renewed or ended.
Well, we can't essentially reverse the planning board's decision, which forced them to pay 3 times as much to build a road to the town spec, and then just decide all of a sudden that we're not gonna do it. It's already been approved by the planning board.
I just wanted to, one of the things I brought up was, it seems like the select board asked Rodney to to make the deal with the developers about having it be accepted as a town road. And I thought that it had to be, that kind of thing had to be decided at an approved at an open hearing with the planning board. Are you saying that it was after they did that, after that was decided?
There's a difference between easements and the roadway. The town accepted the easements in 2020. They did not accept the road in 2020. It was discussed about moving towards it becoming a town road, but in 2020, the only thing that was accepted was easements, so the town could maintain its infrastructure.
That was for this, I believe that was for the sewer main.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's this pump station that's on an easement.
Right, exactly. And it's connected to the rest of our infrastructure, so the town needs to be able to maintain it to ensure that the entire system stays healthy and functioning.
Okay.
It takes care of the Catholic Church.
We have lots and lots of easements on private property. So actually, a lot of what I do is chase down easements on private property.
All right, well, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else? Further discussion with the board? I'd make a motion that we accept Church Street as a town road, possibly the last time.
Second.
Do we do that as part of the public
Oh.
hearing?
Yes,
This
yeah,
is-
if you close
this
the
is the final
public,
public
this is
hearing.
it, just one public hearing. It's all for public.
Okay, so let's close the public hearing and then, so I make a motion to close the public hearing.
So I'll second that. Okay. And then I'll bring
All
up
in favor.
all those in favor. Yeah, good one. Procedure. And then my motion stands.
Then my second stands.
And all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, yeah, thanks for those questions. Thanks for the project and
Yeah.
presentation.
Thank you.
Erin? Great.
Have a good evening.
You don't want to stay for the rest?
I was the selectman in Jaffrey, I know the deal.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll say that with the
All right. Seth MacLean will join us now from the Department of Public Works, Assistant Town Administrator. Hello, Seth.
Thanks, Tyler. Good evening. So recently I was approached by Swift Corwin and Mike Lambert. Mike is a Hancock resident? No, sorry, Peterborough. Sorry, that's the cardinal sin. With the possibility of a grant that Mike and Swift had sort of uncovered through some of the research. Mike had attended some workshops to get an understanding of what the grant entails, and then had reached out to town staff to say, is this something the town might be interested in pursuing? I met with Swift, a couple other folks that their names escape me. I brought Tim Rose, our highway superintendent, with us to take a look at the stretch of the rail trail that extends from Scott Mitchell Road to the Hancock Town line, and generally agreed. The trail's in pretty good shape at this point, but it would be a good time to invest a little money into that pathway and start making sure that we preserve the fact that it's actually in pretty good shape. And so what we're asking for tonight is authorization from the select board to apply for the Recreational Trails Program Grant, which is administered through the New Hampshire Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We're still in the process of sort of working through exactly what the details will be for that. But in a nutshell, there's some tree work that needs to happen, some possibility for some wayfinding signs that we were talking about just now, re-hard packing the surface, but generally keeping it, doing some maintenance on the trail and bringing it back up to sort of the condition it was when it would have originally been put in place. So that's what we're asking for tonight. We have till June 16th to apply for this grant. The town would apply for an 80-20 match. Right now, if cost estimates hold, and we're going to add a little bit of tree work and maybe some other professional services, we'd be looking at about $11,000 that we'd be looking to get from this grant program, possibly a bit more depending on some other work that may be identified. Again, that would be an 80-20 grant, and this would be a partnership with the town public works to do some of the work. We'd have to sub out tree work, and we're not talking about clear cutting or anything like that. There's just some dead debris and trees that need some maintenance. So we'd be looking for some funding to help support our operating budget. That's all I have to say about it. I guess if Swift or Mike had anything else to say about it, I'd pass the mic to them at this point. Pretty straightforward.
You want to say something?
Yes, just one thing about it is that the trail as it exists, I'm sure you're all familiar with, is quite nice. But it does come to an end at pretty much the Peterborough line. It continues on through Hancock, and then our vision is to someday see this go all the way through Hancock, Bennington, up to Hillsborough, and points beyond. So I think a demonstrated care and maintenance of our section of the trail, so to speak, will boost its visibility and importance to the community at large, and will probably facilitate, if the timing was better, we would have done this earlier, but unfortunately not. It will facilitate Hancock working on their section of the trail, which is much more involved in terms of lifting railroad ties and building a small bridge. So I think a great statement will be made if we're able to win this small grant to do this. Swift?
Yeah, so like Mike says, it's a regional thing, but we can only worry about what we're doing in Peterborough, but it's a good example for Hancock, and we think that the Hancock will buy into it and make a nice food trail.
What if we don't get the grant? Nothing?
It will cost us more money.
Well,
If we don't get the grant, I'm relatively comfortable that our operating budget, depending on how the winter goes, could probably support the program, and we could get started on the work anyway.
anyone? Nothing?
No.
Kennedy? Bill Kennedy? Any questions? No. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Any potentially use volunteer labor? Just hand out some chainsaw.
It's more, it's material. You have to add a hard pack and a vibratory roller, and it's not something volunteers do.
And this cuts through private property?
No, it's all
town-owned land.
Town-owned land.
Okay.
It's the common pathway, so we own all the way to the Hancock.
Right. And I seem to recall, as you said, it kind of ends in Hancock. that because that's private property up there?
No, that's also B&M, or
Formerly.
yes, formerly B&M.
So that, all the land past Scott Mitchell Road, off to the right-hand side, particularly down to the river, that's all town-owned land down there as well.
Okay, and so B&M still has easements on all those properties?
No, they don't. They
No,
let
I don't
them
think
go.
Let them go.
Back in late 80s, early 90s, they released them all to the communities or the property owners. So the town picked up most of them.
This
but not
town
all of them,
did,
yes.
yes, but I'm asking about Hancock.
Oh, elsewhere.
It could be
Gotcha,
like a
sorry.
dead end, anyway.
Yeah, up through Bennington, there may be, it's basically old rail bed. Further up, there might be some issues, but we don't have to deal with those.
Yeah, we're not concerned with that.
At Elmwood Junction, it's a full-on rail track.
Right. But if we're gonna invest in a dead end, yeah, worth it. Stephanie?
I just have a question. So this maintenance is only going to be on the part by Scott Mitchell, or does it go further in towards town?
At this point, just from the transfer station to the Peterborough town line.
To the town line? I walk that trail a lot, and right near the end of the line, it needs a lot of dirt because it's all rooty.
That's right.
We ride our bikes there too, and it's really hard to ride because it's so rooty, so that would be great.
Exactly. And to the point about volunteers, while some of the work that's being proposed, obviously is probably beyond the scope of volunteers, but we're keenly aware that the use of volunteers on these kinds of things is a great idea. So we're moving to establish actually a volunteer hiking group that would do light maintenance on this kind of a trail moving forward.
Nice.
That'll be good.
Anyone else?
I do know that trail is heavily trafficked and it's well maintained. So part of the reason why it is so heavily trafficked is because it is well maintained, so. Should keep that up.
Is that your motion to authorize Seth?
Yeah, I made that motion.
I'll second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Seth, do your magic. Nice. Grant writing. All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin is not here tonight. Thank you. For this appointment. Thanks, guys. So we have an advisory committee.
Yes, we will need an advisory committee
Oh.
delegate from the select board to join the Coldstone Springs advisory. This is the committee that will oversee the operations and management of the well after it's constructed.
Forever?
I mean, that, the person doesn't have to be on there forever, the position will be there for a good long time though.
And are we picking a person now or just making the appointment of the position?
I would appreciate it if one of you gentlemen would volunteer to serve with me on this advisory committee. It is made up by one selectman, town manager or town administrator, and 2 members of the public works staff from each community. And the very first piece of business we're going to be taking up is the ratification of the operation and management plan, which is currently in its final draft form.
Oh, I'd volunteer to do that. And we don't need them.
We're not-
You don't
That's
need
close.
between 5 and 8 people.
I definitely don't want to interrupt your dinner.
Well, it's kind of you. Oh, I thought we'd have to go paper, rock, scissors. All right, great. I will, I'd make a motion to appoint the committee as the select board delegate to the Cold Stone Springs Advisory Committee.
I'll have to learn
Tongue
the
twister.
first too, so.
I'll second that one.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, up next.
Up
some
next,
expenditures.
yeah, we
Feeling
have
generous today.
Good.
$79,000 in expenditures from the fire department apparatus and equipment and capital reserve fund. You've got the memo in the packet.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't have any questions about it.
No, I saw McCulkin's breakdown of the cost of the vehicle,
Yeah.
but then it said, it looked like it was quite a bit, but then it said it was $42,000 for the vehicle, but then the rest of this was fit up.
Mhm.
for, you know, the way it needs to be, right,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
emergency vehicle. Sure. Did anybody have any questions about the, would anybody like to question the fire department?
Well, it was already budgeted.
Yeah.
And it was detailed, yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
very detailed, so.
All right. Well, I would make that motion that we approve that $79,000 expenditure from the fire department apparatus and equipment capital reserve fund.
I'll second that one.
All those in favor? Aye. Great.
Next, we have the vote on the revolving fund budgets. The PEG station, all these revolving fund budgets were reviewed during the budget process with the budget committee. This is just the final piece, so we can actually plug the budgets into our accounting system and press play on July 1. So the ambulance service revolving fund is budgeted for $2,206,848. The rec revolving fund budget is $173,624, and the PEG station revolving fund is $30,488. Each of these is supported by some combination of fees and appropriations from municipalities.
That would make a motion to approve all three.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Would there ever be a case where we wouldn't have voted to approve that?
I really hope not, because that means a second meeting in June, and we all know how everybody
That
feels
also
about
means
that.
we'd be going against town meeting.
Well, town meeting had nothing to do with these. These are all selectmen approved budgets.
But we sweated over
They
the
were
budget.
approved
So
from.
if we didn't raise objections back then, now's probably not the time to do so.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Oh, is Seth still here to discuss town paving encumbrances, or do you even need to be in this discussion?
I'm sure he'd be happy to answer all questions. Great.
As many as I can at this time.
Who would like to say
Related to that
anything?
specific topic.
So there is one addition to the memo that was included in the packet, which is downtown tree care services. We'd like to encumber up to $28,571.37.
This was the program that was approved through the budget process for various insect treatments, pruning, other care downtown. That vendors had some issues with staffing, as many contractors have. Just today, he committed to completing the work by the end of this month. But in the interest of making sure we don't allow those funds to slip back and the work not be performed and completed, makes sense to encumber them. But my expectation as of this morning is that it actually won't need to be encumbered at this point. It would be good to get a vote just in case for some reason he has a hard time being able to finish the contract before the end of the fiscal year.
Who is it, Mike?
The contract is with Broad Oak Tree Care. They do a lot of the more ornamental tree work in the region.
Yeah.
And they were, the contract was for specific trees?
Yes.
Okay. I seem to recall that now.
Yeah, there was a tremendous amount of work that was identified through the budget 2 years back, actually, for the current budget, within the process to talk about trees along streets, all the parks in the downtown, some work in the West Peterborough Park as well. And if you recall, this program was mostly offset with TIF funding, speaking of the maintenance question, but it went through the budget process and the approval process through the TIF district, so there's some money. So while it's 28,000, there are offsets built in through the Stan and Betty Fry Fund, which was approved through the Parks Committee and the Select Board, and then the West Peterborough and the downtown TIF have some monies going into this program as well.
So these couple of trees that took a hit in the last ice storm by the Memorial Gates here are part of that.
Those trees we're gonna need to have another conversation about it at a future time.
Yeah, those should be about half as much work as they were before because they got destroyed.
I own a chainsaw, so.
Well, he's got a truckload up, hands out to volunteers.
All right, I'd make a motion we vote to approve these encumbrances.
I'll second.
Oh, did anybody in the audience have any questions further? All those in favor? Aye. Thanks again, Seth. All right, social services funding requests. Will Ally be speaking to this?
Ally will be speaking to this as soon as she finishes getting the motion.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Chair Ward made the motion. Who was the second on that? All right, Mr. Kennedy. Those are the super important parts of the minutes. Okay, so I'd like to recognize that we actually have some folks in the audience that represent a couple of the organizations that submitted requests for social services funding, so I thank you for being here. So the 2023 Human Services budget includes $20,000 for the support of social services agencies that provide a critical service to Peterborough residents that the town would otherwise cover through the municipal welfare budget. So they're required to complete an application each year. So each year they seek this funding, they have to fill out this application, which we then review. We did receive 2 new applications from 2 new agencies this year. Those were CASA of New Hampshire and Reality Check. And the River Center also submitted a request separate from the $15,000 that's built into the police department budget. So those were kind of the 3 items that we had to take into account for this year that were not on there last year. So on the memo that I included in the packet, we have the amount that was requested by all of those organizations. I noted if they had asked for an increase over last year, there were 3 organizations that asked for increased funding, and then the new requests. The total requests exceed that budget by $17,299. And there's currently about $10,000 remaining in the direct relief budget, which is used to pay for the basic needs for approved welfare clients. That's a separate budget item from the $20,000. So conservatively, that money, any money that's left over there at the end of the fiscal year could also be put towards this purpose, towards social services funding. But if we make a conservative estimate based on what might be available and combine it with the $20,000 that is available, we're looking at about $27,000 total. And we had $37,299 in requests. So the select board can opt to completely fulfill a request, to partially fulfill, or to deny any request on an individual basis. Nicole and I talked about the different organizations that had applied in regards to kind of the welfare mission of the town, what the town has to do by law for folks who apply for assistance. And so we broke up those organizations based on immediate or basic needs, satellite needs, so organizations that would help people access those immediate or basic needs, and then highly specific needs or preventative programs, so programs that might help prevent people from getting in situations that might require they ask the town for help. So we felt that that was a way to kind of categorize those applications, because it is a little overwhelming, because these are, of course, all very worthy in their own ways, and there are some decisions that need to be made in regards to who gets what. So we're seeking your help and guidance on how to look at these applications.
So there's 37,000 plus in requests, and at the end of all that said, counting on what may come in, is 27,000.
Yes.
So we're looking at like 10,300.
Yep.
That would have to come from somewhere, if we wanted to fund them all.
Correct.
Yes.
Any questions?
That was my question, to clarify that.
Yeah.
Now, I have some comments about some of these agencies, some of these funds that have been requested. For instance, there's a 40% increase in the 68-hour Conval.
Mm-hmm.
That's fairly substantial. But the other ones who are also requesting increases are 15% roughly, which is pretty onerous. As you said, all of these are desirable for our community. And I happen to know a couple of these agencies that are tremendous. But where are we going to get the money? Do we have a plan to change, that $10,000 gap, you might say? Is there any recommendations? And the other question I had was, last year, we allocated $20,000 to the budget, and we ended up spending $30,000.
Yep.
Why didn't we budget $30,000 this year?
Well, my understanding is that based on the timeline, it was already budgeted
We
because.
were already through the budget process by the time we reviewed these last year. So-
So they don't get their applications in until after we do the budget review?
Correct, because what we typically do is, like Ally's done here, is we look at what's available in the general relief budget to see if there's enough funds there to help fully fund. Even if we had increased it by another $10,000 and brought it up to $30,000, we'd be still looking at a $7,000 shortfall that we would be trying to fulfill with the general relief funds. That fortunately have not been completely expended this year. Another thing that we've had to do, not in an incredibly long time, this is probably going back almost 20 years now, but when the general relief fund has been overdrawn, we have drawn funds out of this assistance fund to help meet the needs of the individual welfare clients who've come to the town and can't be turned away.
I'd like to make a couple observations. We just listened to an ask for approval for a grant for trail extension or for maintenance, and we're told that if the grant didn't come through, the work would still be done anyway, so they'd find money somehow in an operating budget. Right?
Probably in the paving budget, because it's paving work that's really being
Right.
discussed.
So that's money that could be found. We recently, in recent years, had some money that disappeared, and the town was able to come around and really tighten things up to come up with, or not use money that we had budgeted in order to make up for that shortfall. I think $10,300 is a pittance spread out over all of our tax bills. What would it cost us, maybe 12 cents each?
So we're at the end of the fiscal year. So what we would be looking to do most likely, after I've sat down with Lily next week, if the select board would choose to fully fund all of these as they've been laid out, I'd sit down with Lily later this week or probably early next week and say, okay, where can we draw money from? Are we going to have money that we intend to return to the general fund at the end of this year? What are we looking at? And if not, my next stop would be Seth's office to say, all right, I need to find another $17,000 or whatever it ends up being. Can I take that out of your paving budget for this spring? Because that is the biggest pot of discretionary funds that we have.
Well, I looked through the list and I can't see one that I would pick to cut or reduce over another one. They're all way too important, in my opinion.
Well, the River Center is asking for $3,500 additional dollars over the $15,000 that we already funded.
That's correct, yeah.
Is someone here to explain to me why that's needed? What are they going to do with the money?
I don't think we have a representative from the River Center here, no.
It's sort of nebulous. What's it going to be used for?
Well, we have, so, as I said, all of these organizations are asked to submit applications, and we ask them to lay out, why are you asking for this much money? How did you come to that number specifically? And then what will you be doing with that money if it is granted? So we do have...
I remember going through that file.
Yes.
But I don't remember reading a River Center one. Maybe I passed it over because I knew we were already funding them heavily.
Well, and my understanding is that that's why last year they weren't included on the list, because the understanding was that 15,000, I believe, is that right? That is going toward the community resource specialist, who I must say is well worth it. I collaborate with her very often. on folks that come in, on our clients. Very, very worth it. Sorry.
And I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is the $3,500, that they're asking for more money.
Well, the 15 seemed, it really is geared towards that resource.
I knew that,
specialist,
yeah.
Right, so, so clearly they need assistance in these other.
Well, if we're looking for money, and this is the kind of stuff that we're discussing, which is pretty important, I'm sure we all know several people that benefit from all these organizations, so you can have my $2,500 for the year towards it.
I think you can find it. I would like to remind everybody right this moment that 50 minutes ago, New Hampshire Gives opened up at 5 o'clock. And no doubt many of these organizations, so go to the select board packet on your, in your email and look at these organizations, then go to nhgives. Whatever they are, .org. And, .org. And see if maybe they could, you could donate to them. Anyway, so that's where we are.
Now, this resource person that we pay for essentially, do they serve other towns as well?
Yes.
But none of the other towns actually contribute to that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they contribute to
To the River Center, yes.
River Center.
They do.
I'm not trying to.
There's also another question here. We have two agencies, CASA of New Hampshire and the Child Advocacy Center of the Nanac region, that are both offering the same types of services to the same population. Typically, we don't overlap services. So the question would be, does the select board want to support both of them, or would they like to choose one over the other?
I mean, costs of New Hampshire's only asking for $500.
I'm not saying that they're big ass, it's certainly not the question.
Yeah,
It's just it's a limited budget.
I think we're talking about this too much. Just finding one.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'd make a motion that you fund them. Four.
And fund all of them?
Yes.
All the requests, okay.
Mhm.
All requests as asked, okay.
Yeah. Any second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Well, I'd like to, well, I don't know that we need to discuss it now, but I'd like to scrutinize this a little bit more in the future. Because we're becoming more and more of a welfare agent.
Well, because people are
There's also
having
a
harder
lot
and harder
more
time
need.
living.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I must admit, but at the same time, I'd also like to get some feedback from, all these names of towns and cities that River Center services, and we're paying for a resource person. Why can't they contribute to that?
And that it is interesting, when I look through the applications, there are sometimes notes in there about how they've gone to the towns that they help to serve, and those towns say no, or tell them to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so they do. So it is, it is an interesting question, and, we have until June 30th to put in the check requests to fund these organizations. So if there is any additional follow-up work or investigation, then...
I don't intend to conduct that this year for this budget, but I do think we need to become much more scrutinized, some of these agencies, because we're just inundated with requests for money. And,
Imagine what it's like for them.
Well, that's
Well,
part
and
of the deal.
It was very difficult this year from a municipal welfare perspective, because much of the state funding, the New Hampshire Emergency Rental Assistance Program, those funds dried up. They stopped distributing those, and so we got a crush of people through the door who needed assistance, who had previously been getting it. And so had that not been the case, we might have more to play with in direct relief. But we definitely had a much larger demand from folks, because that funding from the state was no longer available.
Once again, the state's shoving stuff down our throats. Okay. Did you want to vote on it, or Who in the audience?
He made a motion and I seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No, I'm not opposed.
Can I comment on your comment
Sure.
about the increased need? So my name's Mary Drew, and I'm from Reality Check, one of the agencies, so thank you all for proving that. But I'm also the welfare director for the town of Ringe. I also did Jaffrey, Marlborough, Richmond, Fitzwilliam. And as Ali stated, the state is absolutely pushing costs to the municipalities. A lot of the agencies that I would and still do refer people to, applicants to, welfare applicants, had their budgets cut, their revenue decreased. So the awards that they were giving people for fuel assistance or electricity assistance or food stamps, all of that was also cut.
Mm-hmm.
So people weren't getting what they were used to getting.
And those costs tripled.
Yep, and everything, exactly, and everything went up. Electricity, fuel oil, food, all of those went up. The resources went down, and unfortunately, it falls to the town. Without some big influx of money, it's probably going to continue.
We're talking about our neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about $10,000 out of what, 15 million? So.
Can I just ask what the welfare budget is in Peterborough?
Direct relief is 80,000, and then we have 20,000 budgeted for social services this year. That goes up to 30,000 next year.
So in Jaffrey, I had a $146,000 budget for both. And in Ringe, it got dropped to 40,000 for both, so 20,000 for social services. And I also have at least double requests, close to 40,000, and I can only fund less than half than that. And they're cutting again.
Thank you for sharing that. Next.
Talk about something cool.
Yeah, this is a little bit more like.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it on later in the list. This is uncomfortable.
McQuillen Day Proclamation.
Well, coming up is Quack Fest 100, which would have been Bob McQuillen's 100th birthday, June 27th. And he said to, I think probably everybody knew that if I live to be 100, damn it, I want to have a concert in the townhouse in Peterborough.
Damn.
And there might have been more foul language in that statement. He didn't make it to 100, but they're still going to have the party for him. And Sarah Bowen, one of the closest people to Mac, reached out to me and suggested the possibility of it. You wanted a whole year at first, right?
Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, I don't know, let me find out about that. So we have a proclamation before us that Nicole's gonna kindly read, designating June 27th as Robert Bob McQuillen Day in Peterborough.
By your leave, I'll work my way through this.
It's right here, turn it up.
This one's bigger
Oh,
font.
yeah.
So whereas Robert Bob McQuillen was a veteran, teacher, musician, and composer who enriched the lives of everyone who knew him. And whereas Bob McQuillen served his country in World War II and the Korean War, and as an instructor, discovered his love of teaching. And whereas Bob McQuillen graduated from Keene Teachers College, now Keene State College, in 1959, and taught industrial arts at the Peterborough High School and Conval High School until his retirement in 1984, but continued to substitute teach well into the 1990s. And whereas Bob McQuillen was known to his students as Mr. Mac, volunteered as a coach and encouraged many students who may not have otherwise graduated to stay in school. And whereas Bob McQuillen was a lifelong musician, having learned to play the guitar and accordion as a teenager, then learning piano from Ralph Page while he was a musician in the Ralph Page Orchestra, and later joined the Canterbury County Country Dance Orchestra, who often played in the Summer Dance Series in Peterborough, as well as many other smaller bands. And whereas Bob McQuillen was himself a composer of over 1,600 jigs, reels, hornpipes, marches, and waltzes that have been collected into 15 volumes known as Bob's Notebooks, including one piece for each of New Hampshire's 234 towns and cities. And whereas Bob McQuillen has received many awards and recognitions, including the New Hampshire Governor's Arts Award in Living Folk Heritage in 1997, representing New Hampshire at the 1999 Smithsonian Folk Life Festival, and was awarded a National Heritage Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts in 2002, and was presented with a Lifetime Contribution Award from the Country Dance and Song Society at the New England Folk Festival in 2008. And whereas Bob McQuillen dedicated himself to his nation, his students, and to spreading the joy of country dancing and keeping country dancing vibrant for many generations of Americans. And whereas Bob McQuillen made it widely known that if he lived to see his 100th birthday, he would celebrate it seated at the town's piano playing for the dancers in the upper hall of the Peterborough Townhouse. Be it resolved that the Select Board of the Town of Peterborough declare June 27, 2023, Robert Bob McQuillen Day.
None of that stuff he would have ever said about himself. Most people, like all the people from Conval and Peterborough, knew very little, if not nothing, about his music world, and sort of vice versa. And he was just like so massive of a presence in both. Sarah, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I'm thrilled that this is happening, but I also I'm putting together the last book of tunes right now, and I went, and in 2014, when he died in March, Senator Jean Shaheen read into the congressional record in Washington pretty much a lot of that to recognize his service, and so it's really sweet to. And he would be thrilled. I mean, wherever he is, he's going, hee-haw, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Quackfest on July 1st is just going to be a blast. I mean, this place is going to be rocking. The town's going to be insane anyway because of Art in the Park. But we're going to have a lot of dancing and music upstairs and a tent outside and workshops and all sorts of fun stuff. So.
Whatever became of his van?
It is up in Newport. He gave it to Russell Orzechowski, one of the...
Oh, yeah, Russell came by Swift Corbin's place next
That's
door to
right,
ours and
yeah.
played a few tunes.
We'll see if Russell can, I don't think he'll be able to get it out of there.
Oh,
It did
really?
run recently because somebody wanted it at a wedding.
Oh.
But it's still sitting there.
Did you know about the van?
The piano van. He had an old bread truck that he put a piano in, and he would take it to festivals and little bunk beds.
Little bunk bed he'd sleep in.
I was real close to Mac since 1987. Probably went out to eat with him almost every week until 2014. There was another group of our friends that went out with him about once a month for 20, I don't know how many years, more than 5.
Yeah.
Ask a question?
Yeah.
Are you one of the folks behind McQuillentunes.com?
Oh, that's a woman named Lori Endenbaum in Vermont.
So this is one of the coolest things I ran across when I was researching some of the facts for this. This is a whole website. It's called McQuillentunes.com, and is dedicated to having every one of Bob's tunes played during 2023.
Right.
There's a sign up. There's links to where you can get the music so you can play it. So I just thought that was a pretty cool thing, and I hope the word gets out about that.
Yeah,
So it'd be neat
a
to-
lot have been played, and people are uploading what they've done. And another really cool thing is the Country Dance and Song Society is putting together an iPad app with all the tune books.
That's great.
So that's really neat too. And everything, all his tune books and recordings will end up with Country Dance and Song Society, but over at the University of New Hampshire, at the Special Collections, all of his originals. And so there's a huge archive over there of all Mac's stuff, which he arranged before he died.
So what was it, the website again? McQuillentunes.com.
Yeah.
And how do you spell that?
Here, I'll talk to you after.
McQuillen,
Sure. Okay.
McQuillen.
He also had a way of deflecting controversy, one of which most people don't know about, but there was a time during Conval when there were several students who refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and whatnot. And Bob said to the staff, Don't worry about it. Just turn off the lights in the gym and they've lost all their power. And it worked like a charm. He was just that kind of man. And also kept many students from leaving the classroom to do other things, and they would go on to graduate. Many
Yeah,
of them.
that's in the proclamation.
Many of them.
Yeah, and nobody could quiet down the cafeteria like Mac either. It's funny, for the kindest, sweetest man you ever met, he was a force to be reckoned with, for sure. I never saw him mad, so.
I did. And he was mad about the students, but knew how to handle it.
That's right. Well, he knew how to calm them down, that's for sure.
So we need a motion to accept the...
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Great. Yeah, I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So let it be written. Let it be done.
Can we get that into the paper?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, absolutely.
And can I talk to you actually?
Sure, yeah, we can meet
It's
outside.
like a whole page too, right?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
That was sweet.
Up next, Kristen, Ramey, and Erin McCall have been recommended as library trustee board alternates. I saw the letter from Tina, recommending. Thank you. I'd make a motion to appoint them. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't know either of
Thank you,
them, but
Alan.
I'm sure they'll.
Pleasure.
Good. Highly recommended. Very good. And then we have minutes for May 2nd and May 16th to vote to approve. I was not here on the 16th.
I'll make a motion to approve those 2 sets of minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye on the 2nd and abstain on the 16th. At this moment, I'd like to make a motion that we enter non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, 2, parentheses C, regarding reputation.
Nicole?
Yeah.
Thanks, good night.
Did it
No
die?
bullshit, it's probably just dead. There's not a single day goes by that